All right, all right. It is Monday night. You know what time it is. Another episode of the Reentry Journey. I am your host, Cordell Sims, and tonight our guest is Belle. That's right, Belle. Belle's going to come to the floor. She's going to explain her journey. She's going to share with us her journey. So all of you that's going to be tuning in, please take notes, listen, learn, and then reach out and connect because we all one great family. We all been through similar struggles. We all taken similar roles and we all overcame, and we trying our best to maintain this positive, successful lifestyle that we have gained now. So tonight I bring to the floor Belle. Belle, hey, welcome to the reentry journey. Tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me, Cardell. I'm thrilled to be here. Like he said, my name's Belle. I'm in Denver, Colorado, coming to you from Denver. Exciting news today. I just left the halfway house. So that's been a huge part of my journey. Today has been very exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I first went to prison in 2012. My crime is all economic money crime. My restitution is roughly $500,000. Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. Go big
Man.
or go home, right?
You got out of prison owing $500,000.
Right.
Right. Woo.
Yeah. So I've actually been to prison twice. I've just, like I said, I just left the halfway house today. I did a total of roughly 7.5 years on a 30-year sentence.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So they really don't like it when women steal money. They just don't.
Right.
Right.
Man, time out. So I, I ain't we ain't got to the story, but I got to ask. 30 years and no violence.
No violence, no drugs. I was stealing money to take care of an addict husband who didn't choose to work. I was stealing money to pay my mortgage, pay car payments. Like I wasn't traveling the world and living some fancy pants lifestyle, right? I was trying to survive, and with my own worth issues, I was taking care of everyone around me and stealing money to do it. Like, of course, that's not the right way to do it. And I really needed to work on those worth issues. But that's where I was at that time.
Mm. So pre to this occurring, you wasn't involved in no criminal activity or anything.
I mean, was I perfect? No, of course not.
Right.
But I mean, like, I had up until the first night I spent in jail at the age of, I was 39. No, I was 37 at that point. I had never spent any time in jail. I didn't really know anybody who had been in jail. I have an ex fiance that I was stealing money to support him too while he was on parole. And he was my only experience with prison lifestyle. Never been a part of a gang, didn't really know anybody. I mean, look at me. I live in white suburbia. Come on. I mean, let's just call a spade here, right? That was right. That's I'm just being real,
Right.
right? I mean, I knew in high school I knew one black guy, one black girl, one Asian kid in school, a young man, a handful of Latinos, and that's really all I knew. So I didn't have a lot of experience. My first night in jail scared me to death. I had no idea what to expect. You don't. If you've
Mm.
never been there, you don't know what that's going to be like. And what they show on
Right.
TV just scares you.
Right. Yeah. You go up TV, man. You don't know what's going to go down. Like
Right.
anytime you're
Right.
expecting something to happen, like hey, in TV, as soon as you go in, something's going down.
Right.
You
And
know.
my ex-fiance, he was Native American, and you know how racial things can get in prison, right? And so he
Mm-hmm.
had some very specific stories of how he'd been attacked with knives, and I mean he painted a very violent picture. And so when I finally went just to jail, I was scared to death. And then when I got and so I bonded out, right? Fought my case for a little over a year. So I spent one night in county jail before I was sentenced to prison. I had no idea what I was walking into. None.
Oh, so you bonded out, and then when you got sentenced, you on one night, and then the next day you was on the bus to the prison.
Right. I think
Oh
no.
wow.
I think I spent maybe 3 days in county. And I don't know
Okay.
how other states do it, but here in Colorado, once you've been sentenced to prison, you're in a different pod. You're not in GP. You're kept separated from everybody else. And so all you're hearing are the scary stories of people who've been to prison and right didn't do well, right? So
Right.
that's not
Wow.
exactly honest. Yeah, I had no idea what I was getting into.
So, life before, let's say life before you caught the case, right? How was neighbors, friends, family treating you prior to you catching case?
I would say pretty well. I mentioned it briefly before, but I definitely struggled with worth issues. I was adopted as an infant, and so I never really felt like I fit in. Um, I feel like I was pretty, normal upbringing that everybody has, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have your parents, you have your family, you have like just regular upbringing, right? My dad was an auto mechanic, my mom was a homemaker. Like I went to school, right, and did normal kids stuff, right? Had a dog, had a cat, normal life
Right.
stuff, right? Had friends, but I never felt that I was worth anything. I never felt that I deserved what I had. I never felt like I fit in. And I definitely felt like I had to, honestly, for lack of a better word, buy relationships and buy friendships. And so when I did start stealing money, all of a sudden I had this lifestyle, and I was definitely raised with a we do things a certain way and certain people and people from the wrong side of the tracks and all those shitty things that people say, right? I
Mm-hmm.
definitely had that sort of upbringing, that there were
Okay.
definitely expectations of how a lady behaves and how you have to be a wife and a mother and do certain things. And that was never what I wanted to do,
Mm.
you know?
So, say 39 years old, you go in prison, jail, prison, first
Yep.
time.
Yep.
What was that experience like? First day you walking, not the county jail. First day you walking inside of a prison.
I
What's going through your mind?
I was scared to death. I had no idea what was going to happen to me, right? And like we just said, right, what you see on TV, right? All the Locked
Right.
Up and 60 Days In and all those shows. I mean, they glorify violence, and you and I both know violence happens, but it's not the everyday occurrence in every facility. Yeah, it can happen, sure, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
the norm, right? But
Right.
I didn't know
But you
that.
didn't know, man. And then, matter of fact, I forgot to add is one more piece. It's not just you going to prison for the first time at this age, but you're going in there with a 30-year sentence.
So actually, no. Hold on. Let me.
Oh,
Oh wait, wait. Let's just be full disclosure. So my first sentence, my first crime, stole roughly $300,000. I got 8 years DOC for that.
okay.
While I was in, I knew I had another case coming. Right. So I pursued that case because I didn't want to get out of prison and then turn right around and come back. So while I was in
Oh yeah.
prison, right, I wanted to deal with what I needed to deal with. So
Mm-hmm.
while I'm in prison, I receive a 12-year community correction sentence while I'm already in the Department of Corrections. Those two don't go together.
I was just about to say, hold on, wait a minute.
Right.
You said community correction
Yes, I did.
sentence.
Right. So here in Colorado, the state law says that you're eligible to apply for community corrections when you've done so much of your DOC sentence. So giving me a community correction sentence just extended my sentence. And it's
Right.
consecutive, right? It's consecutive. So I
Yeah,
finally get
you
out.
know they're gonna run the consecutive. Yeah,
Of course
yeah.
they are. Of course they are. And it's a
It's
separate
only
case
right
in
to.
county. Right. So so there's my 8 plus 12, right? So I get out to community as a DOC client, and then I have this other community correction sentence, right? Well, I don't know how they do it in other places, but here it was a cluster. Like I had two sets of UAs, two sets of office visits, two sets of restitution. Neither one took a governing. So, like my parole officer wanted me to drive. The halfway house said, no, you can't. Well, which is it? Because I can't do both. And neither of
Right.
them would take governing, right? So, it's hard, right? Two sets of everything, and I'm barely making minimum wage. Like I'm not stealing money this time, right? So it's harder. And I don't have any family. I chose to cut ties with my adopted family because they weren't healthy. And I
Right.
recognized that. So I trying to move on with my life, right? Well, just like anybody else, I don't care what your issue is. If your issue is drugs, if your issue is running guns, if your issue is gangs, like I don't care what your deal is. When shit hits the fan, what do? You go back to what you know, right? Everybody
Mm-hmm.
has done it. We've all done it. Well, what I knew was stealing money. Like I used to be a bookkeeper. I stole $500,000 because I knew how, right? So
Right.
I'm in the halfway house. I'm 3 months behind on rent. Can't find a job because I'm overqualified for, again, I don't know how they do it in other states, but here, most halfway houses want you doing basic minimum wage sorts of jobs, right? Fast food, car wash, right? And they only
Right.
want you working part time because they want you doing classes and stuff at the halfway house and therapy and whatever else they want you to do. Well, I'm overqualified for those jobs. And they know, talk to me for 5 minutes. They know I'm not going to stay there, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find a job. So I'm on an employment contract, meaning I have 30 days to find a job or they'll send me back to prison, right?
Right.
So the employment coordinator at the halfway house, should I be working in an office? Not in a million years. Where do you think they sent me?
To the office
Yep.
with the background with the background and everything.
Right.
So before we move further, I want to go back just a little bit. You said for those of you that might be tuning in that don't understand what you mean, you said you stand in the halfway house, but you was 3 months behind on your rent. Can you
So
explain that?
yep. So I don't know how they do it in other states, but here in Colorado, you pay rent every day that you're in a halfway. So when you're in a halfway house, there's two ways to get to a halfway house. You can be a DOC client, meaning you've come out of the Department of Corrections, you've done some prison time, and now this is sort of your transition step before full freedom, right? So there's still some structure, still some rules, still some things you got to do, and you're still technically considered an inmate of the Department of Corrections. You're just housed in, let's say, a different unit in a community corrections house.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can be what's called a diversion client, meaning a judge has ordered you directly to community corrections, right? You haven't gone to prison, but you've gotten in some trouble. You may have a felony. And instead of sending you directly to prison, they're going to send you to the halfway house first. And if you screw up at the halfway house, then you'll go to DOC. But they're sort of coming in. Well, here in Colorado, state statute says that all of us that get to stay in the halfway house pay $17 a day. That's on top of
Mm-hmm.
the money they get from DOC, Geo, Core Civic, any of those other companies, right?
Right.
Any of the judges
Man.
that own a halfway house, right?
Yeah, we
You
know it.
still
Yeah,
have,
we've seen that.
oh yeah,
We've seen that happen several times.
yeah. I was in a Geo
Wow.
house, yeah. So I'm 3 months behind on rent at $17 a day,
They
yeah, right. And I don't have any
and
family. I don't
and they
have any
put you right
friends,
back in, and they put you right back into a place where you shouldn't be working in the
right?
office.
In an office. And granted, of course, I'd been to prison and I really had worked on myself. And on paper, I looked like the perfect candidate, right? She's done these programs, she's done these classes, she's white, she's educated, she's going to do well, right? I mean, come on, let's be real.
Right.
Had I really dealt with my worth issues? No, I hadn't. So, of course, I'm like, no, 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 I'm not going to steal. I'm good. I can do this. Just like anybody who's a user, right? I have my stuff under control. I'm good. I can do this. Like any alcoholic who works in a bar, I'm good. I can do this. Well, you can until you can't, right?
Right.
Until some crisis happens, right? And for me, my employer starts bouncing paychecks. Well, so if you're me who already has stability issues, what happens when you can't pay your rent? What am I going to do? I'm going to do what I know, and I know how to run payroll. So I forge payroll checks because I'm doing payroll at this point, right?
Right.
Which I should not have been doing. And it sucked because my parole officer didn't want me doing it. And she's like, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not okay with you doing this. So remember, I had two cases, right?
But
The
you got two
controller.
cases though, right?
So I
You
go back
got
to
them.
so I go back to the halfway house and I'm like, look, hey, I just talked to my parole officer. She's really not comfortable with me working here. And they said, well, it's either that or you go back to prison. I should have gone
Mm.
back to prison then, right? Because I would
Right.
have had another felony at that point. But who wants to go? But nobody wants to go back to
Nobody wants
prison.
right. Nobody. Yeah, I'm just gonna go
Nobody.
and keep this job. I ain't gonna
Right.
go back. Nah, I ain't going back.
Right. So I went back to my parole officer and I'm like, okay, this is what she said. And she was like, man, I don't want you going back on a technical. You're doing everything else. Like I was keeping up with 2 sets of payments and 2 sets of UAs and 2 sets of therapy and 2 sets of classes. Like it was hard. It was a lot, but I was doing it. And she was like, man,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to send you back on that. I'm just mind your P's and Q's. Right. Well, when shit hits the fan and my boss starts bouncing paychecks, what does that do?
Right.
That stresses me out,
Exactly.
right? It stresses me out. So what do I do? Well, I'm going to get mine. So I forge payroll checks. And so I give myself another felony. And of course, this time I've learned. So my very, very first case, I stole $300,000. My second case, I stole $150,000. My third case, I only steal five because that's the lowest
Mm.
level felony, right?
Right.
We know how to work the system. We've learned, if nothing else, the system teaches us how to work it, right?
Exactly.
So I'm not on parole. I was still on ISP. So here in Colorado, it's ISP is intensive supervised parole, inmate status. So I steal. So for roughly 3 months, I steal about $5,000, right? And I stopped myself, which I was actually pretty proud of because I hadn't been able to do that before, right?
Right.
But I was like, this isn't right. I can't do this. Like, I got to stop. Got myself a new job, moved forward, but knew hanging over my head this was going to happen. So I get on parole. My new case comes to light. I get arrested,
Oh.
right? It's going to happen.
Yeah.
The sad thing is my employer that I stole the money from, he was such a cool guy. He didn't want to send me back. He was willing to work with me. He was willing to let me pay back the money. But his business partners were like, nope, we're turning her in. Right? And you and I both know that means I'm going back to prison.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. You going back?
I'm going back. So I have a parole hearing, right? Because at the time I get arrested, I'm back on parole. Well, my parole got reinstated because at the time I committed the new felony, I wasn't on parole. So that's not considered a parole violation. So how is
Right.
it I go back to prison on parole?
Colorado got Colorado got a crazy system. I ain't never.
Sometimes,
Man, that's a little bit too much right there.
right? So of course, so remember my 12-year community correction sentence gets turned into a 12-year DOC sentence.
Six sentence. Right.
So then on my new case, I get 9 years DOC time. So my original age plus a 12 plus a 9 is 30 years.
Not non-violent.
Nonviolent.
And it's crazy. Like first time getting the very first time is your first time getting in trouble,
Mm-hmm.
and it just that's woo.
Yep.
They give you money like you was robbing. I mean, they give you time like you went in there and robbed them with a pistol.
And was it right? No, of course it wasn't right. Should I have stolen it?
Right.
No, of course I shouldn't have. But you're right. There was never any violence. There was never any threat. There was never any weapon. Like it was, I literally, in my very first case, I had access to blank checks and a signature stamp. That's how I stole the money. Does
Right.
it make it right? No, of course not. Like, I don't want to minimize. Yes, I made screwed up decisions. I made choices I should not have made in a sense of I didn't know what else to do. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make it right. It's not right. I
Right.
can't I'll be paying back restitution easily the rest of my life, right?
Right.
I've done prison time. It's not an excuse, but when people feel desperate and backed into a corner, whether it's money, sex, guns, drugs, gangs, I don't care what your thing is, when you're pushed up against the wall, you're going to find a way.
Mm-hmm. It's true. That is true. So you find yourself back in prison.
It was humiliating because here in Colorado, there's only two women's prisons. So,
Oh, so you running back into the same guards,
same
same
guard.
people that you left said I ain't coming back,
Yep.
and you're back,
It was
and so that feeling of humiliation, what did that make you do?
I had to really take a long, hard look at myself and why am I back here? Right? What what
Mm-hmm.
what drove me to make these choices? I've got Do I have the same issues as someone who has a drug addiction? maybe not exactly, right? But clearly something's going on in my head that's not right, that needs to be taken care of. And again, I don't know how other states do it, but here in Colorado, if you go into prison, if you haven't had a previous diagnosis of some sort of psychotropic, psychotic break, you're on medications of some sort, you don't get any mental health care, right? And so clearly something's wrong in my head that I think it's okay to steal that kind of money, right? Something is not right. I didn't know then. I mean, I've learned since then it was a worth issue and feeling like I didn't fit in and I didn't matter and I didn't value myself. So why would anybody else value me? But I didn't know that at first. And that's not something they diagnose. So throughout
Right.
all of my prison time, you and I both know most people do not get the mental health care that they really need. Never mind
Nah,
treatment, never mind
that
anything else. They don't get what they need inside.
yeah. Nah,
Yeah.
they give you some pills. Here,
Oh
take these
yeah.
pills. 6 months, you don't know who you are.
Yeah, they want you on the Seroquel shuffle, right? They
Yeah,
want you not knowing your
they,
name or where you are.
exactly. Yeah, they want you. Only thing you gonna know is when they call med call.
Right. Right. So I had to just get real creative. And luckily, I had a chaplain who really cared about me, who would send in books. And I sort of did like a correspondence. I had a really great therapist that stayed in touch with me while I was inside. And we had long letters and conversations of really figuring out, oh, I chose to do this because I didn't feel like I was good enough. Why didn't I feel like I was good enough? Oh, and really having to peel back that onion and really have to face some really ugly stuff that I had never faced before. And not that it's great, right? Spending time in prison is not something any of us are proud of, but I am proud of the fact that I chose to do some really hard work on myself while I was inside. And I chose to use that time, for lack of a better word, I don't care what your spiritual path is, but if you can look at that time as some sort of a spiritual retreat and really get your head on straight and really figure out who you are and who you want to be, prison's a great place to get that time, right? Because you don't have to
Mhm.
worry about your parents or your kids or paying rent or your bills or whatever else you have in your life. All of that is gone in a heartbeat. It's gone. Well, what do you have left? You have yourself left. And you get
Mhm.
time and you have time. You've got nothing but time.
Yeah, that's the most. That's the place where I've dedicated the most time to myself was in prison.
Yep.
Whether it was um, times where I was in prison and I dedicated time to worsening myself, or
Yep.
was the time in prison when I dedicated to better myself. Because just like you, I'm in the prison 3 or 4 times, so I just didn't go one time. So seemed like every time I went, the first however many times that I kept getting it wrong, I was in there learning new tricks of the trade.
Yeah.
you know. But and then this last time I took the time to really dig in myself and to better myself. Same question, like you said, you ask yourself, like, why do I keep finding myself? I'm back in here. Why did I find myself in here? That's what I kept. That's why I tell myself, like, man, here I go again. Like, what is it? And I had to really peel back them layers.
Yep. And it's hard. And you don't get like a lot of people, I'm sure you know people still inside too, that are dealing with traumatic backgrounds and things they've never grieved and horrible experiences that a human being should not have to go through, but we do. We go through them,
Right.
right? And you're having then to struggle, like you said, peeling back those layers by yourself, right? And that can be really painful, right?
Yeah.
And we have to feel it to heal it, right? We have to go through that. And that can be really hard, especially inside, right? Because I don't
Yeah.
know about you, but the people that I knew, and granted, I've met some of the best people on earth behind barbed wire, but I've also met some of the worst, right? It's a, like any place else, it's a melting pot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And inside, at least for me, it felt like things like grief and trauma, if people didn't understand what you were going through and what you were trying to resolve for yourself, they didn't have a whole lot of patience with you, right? And that
Nah.
can be really hard.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. Oh, yeah. True indeed. So you're working on self. Now it's time to get released. What's the mindset?
So while I was in, like, I, probably like you, the last time you're in, like we get there and we're like, all right, this is it. I'm done. I'm doing my life differently. And so from the time I got back into prison, I was like, I'm going to be different this time. And so I really looked at what programs were available at my prison, what I could do with my time. I knew I was looking at a longer stretch of time. This last time I did 4.5 in, which I know is not very much, but no one
Oh,
wants
yeah,
to
that's some
do that.
time there. What you mean not much? Yeah,
It's
the
not like
calendar's good.
it's not a lifer. Like it's not someone who's like I have friends still in who've done more than 20 years. Like
Right.
it's it's not a contest, right? We all go through what we all go
Exactly.
through, right? And so I just really focused on healing myself and making the best possible use of my time. So like we had a cosmetology program, so I did cosmetology and left prison with a cosmetology license, right? Because I knew I am never again working in an office. Could I be different? Of course I can. But why give myself the temptation? It's just not worth it.
Right.
I'm not going back. I'm not doing it. So I chose a different career path. I believed in programming, so I did as much programming as I could. I worked in pre release, so I did a lot of reentry work. I helped create and develop a reentry program in my prison that they're still using. And I really focused on there aren't very many women as I've come out of prison this time and I'm stepping into this reentry space, I see a lot of great men doing a lot of great work. And not to take away from any of that, like what you're doing and what Aaron's doing and what so many other people are doing, but there aren't very many women in this space. And women
Right.
have different needs than men, right? Not better, not worse, just different. And I think that if more women would be willing to speak about here's what my time was like, here's what my experience was, like nothing is ever going to change if we don't shine a light on it, men and women. Like at some point, we have got to work together. Like racially, culturally, gender, we have to work together. We're never going to make the change we want to by ourselves, right? And
Hmm.
all of us who've been in prison, we're in a fraternity that none of us ever wanted to be in, but here we are, right?
Exactly.
And all of us, right, who've been in, like sometimes I feel more comfortable talking with another formerly incarcerated person because I don't have to explain to you some of what we've gone through. Like I have
Mm.
great friends that I really care about. My fiance is fantastic, but they haven't been where we've been. And sometimes it's nice to just have a conversation with someone that I don't have to explain what a lockdown was or what COVID was like inside prison or any of those other things that we go through, right?
Exactly.
That fellowship is important.
Most definitely, and that's why I created my group on Facebook, the reentry support group, just for that reason. Because I wanted where you can go in a group and express how you feeling, and something we know what you're going through. We've been there, or somebody's not everybody, but a lot of us in the group's been there, and like we understand where you're coming from. That's one of the reasons why I created the reentry support group and on my Facebook group. So when you get out, we know it's rarely that somebody gets out and it's a smooth transition. So what was that transition like this time? You did 4.5 years and now you're getting out. What was that transition like?
So I went to a halfway house. So I'm in a Geo group halfway house, and anyone that's been in Geo knows how much fun that is, right? So, but I feel like I'm in some ways better off this time. Several of the organizations that I did inside, the programming I did inside, they gave me opportunities here on the outside. I'm now working with 3 different organizations, full time, paid. They're paying me for my time to work in reentry, and they met me
Mm,
inside. So it's really validating, right? To have people that met you inside when you're feeling at your lowest, you're feeling at your worst, see something in you and see that you're doing the work and see that you're really putting forth an effort, and they give you an opportunity to come work for them. They didn't have to do that, but they did,
right.
right? And so
Yes.
I'm blessed with work that I find fulfilling, working with reentry, helping our brothers and sisters that are still behind the walls. They need a voice, right? And we get to be that voice. We have to shine that light. And so I just really focused on remembering, right, the lessons I learned inside, who I want to be, where I want to go, what I want to do, and I want to change the world. And so I just had to step forward and be like, hey, enough is enough in Colorado. Like, this is how we treat people inside is not okay. We have a
Right.
really progressive executive director of prisons. He's actually really great. We're pretty progressive here, but we can do better. We can do more. And that's what I want to do.
So, one word, I ask everybody this on the podcast, one word to describe this journey that you're on. What would it be and why?
My word is transformation, right? It has to be, right? Because who we were, um, I had somebody ask me not too long ago, well, if you could go back and undo everything you ever did and start all over, would you? And I don't think I would. Have I loved everything I've done? No, not even a little bit. But I wouldn't be the woman I am today without those experiences. Um, and that is important, right? And I might be the first woman here in Colorado who's really being vocal and really stepping forward and wanting to be here with you and focus a light, but I won't be the last,
Right.
right? Someone has to go first. And if that's me, fine, that's me, because I feel a responsibility to the people I left behind. Like I said, I met some of the best people I know in prison, people that I care about, people that matter, people. I firmly believe that none of us should ever be remembered for only the worst thing we ever did. We are full people who've done a lot of work on ourselves. We're shining a light, we're moving forward, we're creating websites, we're creating podcasts. Like, we're successful people who, yeah, made some mistakes. Everybody makes a mistake. Some people just didn't get caught. We did.
Exactly.
What are we going to do with that? So it's all about transformation, and it's about taking the horrible things that happened to us and turning them into gold and moving forward and showing people that it can be done. Like, you can fall down and you can struggle and you can really screw up. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just means you made some bad choices and you can move forward from that.
Right. And so one of the things I really thrive off of is mentor when getting out of prison to have somebody mentor part of your, your community, part of your little small circle. Somebody is getting out of prison, just got out of prison today, and they see this, and they watching this or they see this, and what advice would you give them with them just now getting out?
On your first day out, and really any day, I think that I know I did. I struggled with wanting to get back to normal, right? I wanted to be like everybody else. I wanted to have that car and have those fun things and clothes and whatever shiny object, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's be patient with yourself. The world has moved on while we were stuck behind the walls. And in some ways you think it's no big deal, and then in other ways it's really a lot, right? So I think it's be patient with yourself. Remind other people around you, we have, I don't care how many years you did behind the walls, you've got some transition time where it's going to take you some time to kind of, like, I remember my first trip walking into a Walmart was incredibly overwhelming, right? And
Right.
it's Walmart, for crying out loud. But all of a sudden, I have 50 choices of peanut butter. How the heck do I know which peanut butter to
Right.
get?
I'm used to having this one or two choices.
Right.
Let me get this kind on the canteen list.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And then all of a sudden, you're in a Walmart or whatever, like, pick the grocery store of your choice. But it can be really overwhelming. So just be patient with yourself and remind even the people around you, be patient with me. It's going to take me some time to adjust. And it can take however long it takes. And it's okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to take your time, and don't be in a rush to get back to normal. That's how I went back to prison, because I wanted to look like everything was happy hunky dory, and it wasn't. So I think, yeah,
Exactly.
is someone getting out of prison today, be patient and ask for help. There is a ton of help out there, but you have to be willing to ask for it. None of us are mind readers, right? Like, if you
Right.
don't ask for the help, like, I will help you all day, right? But if you don't ask, I don't know what you need,
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't know what you need help with.
right?
Mm. So what's next? What's next for Belle? What does Belle have lined up?
Well, I'm getting ready to go back to prison
In
in a good way.
the good way, right?
Way, right? So all three of the organizations I work with do in prison programming, and so we're still figuring out COVID and what each facility is slightly different, but we're getting ready to go back into prison, and so I'm a little. It was a little weird filling out the paperwork and like still technically being an inmate, but applying to go back into prison. So,
Right.
but I think like the prison I left from, they've already approved me to come back. They want me to come and talk to the women there and sort of show them, hey, it's not always easy, but you can be successful. So I'm getting ready to go back to
Exactly.
prison, right, and work with people coming out. I'm taking a page out of your book, and I'm not doing a Facebook support group, but I'm creating a real live in person support group for anyone who's been formerly incarcerated can come, hang out, talk, celebrate your successes. If you're having not so good day, let's talk about that. Like,
Hmm.
that group mind idea, right? Like, I might not have ever had that issue with, say, my PO, but three or four other people over here maybe have. And now, how, if we work together, we can figure stuff out.
Right.
So just trying to
Hmm.
help as many people as possible.
And that's what it's all about. Helping. I always say service is king. That's what I got out, and that's one thing that I stuck with. Service is king, and that's all I've been doing ever since I got out. Is serving and serving. Not looking for anything in return,
Nope.
but blessings have came in return just from just serving,
Right.
serving without looking for anything. One more final question is: I remember you saying that when you was incarcerated, you had a therapist.
Hmm.
How important was that to have that therapist?
That was so important. The entire time I was in prison, I met with mental health once. And that was when I came back from court one time. They wanted to make sure I wasn't, after I'd been sentenced to my 12-month
Yeah,
city car, they wanted to make sure I wasn't, feeling like I was going to harm myself.
right.
Man, no, I don't feel like I'm going to harm myself. But like, that's not having, like, this is another thing, right? If people are watching or listening and you have people in your life that are in prison, please don't just leave them there. I know life is
Mm,
busy. I know you get, trust me, I have 4 jobs. I know life gets busy.
right.
But when we're behind the walls, we feel abandoned and isolated and forgotten. And whatever your state facility rules are around mail, send them a card, send them a JPay, send them a, hell, it could be a postcard. Just let them know that you haven't forgotten them, that they matter to you. Yeah, you can be upset with them all day long about the fact they committed a crime and went back to prison. Yes, that's normal. But these are still people you care about, right? And so having someone who remembered me, who I was more than a number, I was more than my crime, I was someone who mattered. And even if she would just send me a, hey, I'm reading this book, I want you to check it out from the library and let's talk about it, that meant so much to me to have someone. I wasn't forgotten. I wasn't sitting behind the barbed wire figuring it out for myself. Somebody out there cared about me, right? And that made
Hmm.
a huge difference because I didn't feel forgotten and I didn't feel abandoned and I didn't feel alone. Did I have days where I did? Of course I did. That's normal in prison. But
Right.
in mail line, when my name got called and I had an envelope, like, that makes a, I can't even
Yeah,
tell you
man,
how
that
much
makes it,
that
man.
makes
That
a
makes it.
difference. Mhm.
That makes a big difference.
It does. It absolutely does. So if you've got people inside, I know we're busy. Life moves fast for us out here. And your people inside don't always realize, right? We don't. When you're inside, time moves differently.
Right.
Try to remember your people. Send them a card. It does. Like, if all you've got time to do is send them a quick little card that all you do is sign your name on it, that's still better than no contact at all.
But yeah, that's better than no. That's better than standing in the mail line and not getting nothing.
Right. Right.
Wow. So how can the people that they might want to get in contact with you? How can they get in contact with you?
You can get in contact with me at my email. So it's my first name and last name at gmail.com. Um, and I'm happy if you have questions. If you're here in Colorado and you need some support, please reach out. There's a lot going on here. We're trying to make the world a better place. Um, there's so much we can be doing, but we have to do it together.
And there you have it. We'd like to thank you here at the Reentry Journey. We want to say thank you for coming on, being a guest, sharing your story, sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. We wish you nothing but the best from here on down. Oh, also, when you go into prison, back into prison, I want you to message me and tell me what it was like the first time, because the first time I went back in the prison, like for the first minute or so, me walking across the yard to the education
Yeah.
department, I had to catch myself, and I caught myself kind of in the prison walk, like when I was locked up, and I had to catch myself. Hold on,
Can't walk like that
you
now.
in here, you in here for the right things now. So I want to know what that prison experience was like, because the first time me going back in prison, that's what it was like. Like I had to remind myself that I wasn't an inmate. Now I'm in, because the only time I ever been behind a prison fence was when I was an inmate, and the
Right.
first time I went back in to teach and speak, I was actually I wasn't an inmate, so I'm
They let
eager
you
to
back
hear
out,
about that.
right?
Yeah, they let me back out. I was making sure to get that door open. But
JoyBelle,
once again,
so much for
I
having
really
me.
thank you. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. Always feel free join our Facebook reentry support group. Feel free to post in there if you got anything else going on or anything. Post in there. But we lucky to have the work, to have you doing the work that you're doing, and we really appreciate
Thank you so much.
you. Thank you for coming on.
Okay.
All right, you have a good night.
You too.
All right.